everybody, it's Rory from ANS Gear. We have today kind of, I guess, an accessory that you would use maybe if you had a field, or if you maybe had a lot of land and you had a bunch of people over and you were playing paintball on your land and you wanted to refill your own CO2 bottles. Now this here is a deluxe fill station from Empire, and it is made to fill CO2 tanks, smaller ones like 24 ounce, 20, 16, 12, 9, 4, whatever sizes you happen to have. Has a standard ASA at the end right here where you would screw just a normal paintball tank onto the end of it. And then it has this crazy looking device on the other side. And what this is going to do is enable you to fill from a large or bulk size tank of CO2 into your smaller CO2 tanks. Now, one thing I must tell you right from the beginning is you need to have your bulk tank in one of two setups. You either need to have your bulk tank in what they call or in the form that they call a siphon CO2. So basically your bulk tank has to have a snorkel that goes all the way down to the bottom. And when you open it, it sucks liquid CO2 out of the tank and into your smaller CO2 tank. If your tank does not have a siphon CO2 and you just open the top of it, all that's going to come out is gas. No liquid is going to come out. And you need to fill your tank with liquid CO2, not just gaseous CO2. So you need to have a siphon version, or your bulk tank that you have, you need to somehow mount it upside down so that when you open the valve, liquid comes out. One of those two ways. Mounting a giant tank upside down against a wall, probably not the best idea. So get a siphon CO2 when you purchase your bulk CO2. That being said, kind of show you how this works. Your tank is going to screw onto here. This has an on-off. You're going to screw it down, and that makes it so that the valve on the tank is depressed and things can go in, but things can also come out. So if your tank still has CO2 in it, you hook it up to this, you screw this down, CO2 is going to want to come out. So remember that getting into it. So probably the first thing you're going to want to do is just put your tank on. If it's empty, you can screw it down. If not, don't screw it down yet. This is going to attach to the large bulk tank. It's going to thread right onto the end, excuse me, and connect this valve assembly to the tank. Now you've got two levers right here. This lever is going to let the CO2 come through and go through the hose and into the tank. This lever is going to be your bleed lever. Okay, so this is the system. This is how it works. This is what you would do if you were going to do it. You'd connect this all up to the big tank. Make sure that both of these are in the off position, and then you open up the tank. So the large tank is now pushing CO2 liquid through this, but it's stopping right here at this first valve. Okay, it doesn't go through there. Making sure that this is closed, you can then open this. So CO2 comes in, comes down through this thing and into your tank, but does not come this way and out of here because it's closed right there. Once you've filled your CO2 tank, then you would close this off. But if you're going to leave this hooked up to your bulk tank, you don't need to turn your bulk tank off because this is controlling the gas passage from the bulk tank. At that point, once you've filled the tank, you will then release this up. So you'll unscrew it so the valve pin on your tank is no longer being depressed. At that point, you still have pressure built up in this line right here. It's coming up to right here. It can't go this way because this is off. It can't go this way because this is off, but you can't leave this pressure in the line. It's just not good. So you open up the bleed valve and this goes psh, and all this pressure that's right here bleeds off and goes outside. Now that's a simplified way to do it. Couple things you need to know about your small CO2 tank when you're filling it is in order for the liquid CO2 to go into the small CO2 tank and completely fill it up, it needs to be cold. If it's warm, the liquid goes into it, expands really quick, turns into a lot of gas, takes up a lot of space inside there with gas, and you don't get as much CO2 into it. So you need to be cold, otherwise you get too much expansion inside of there. And really the only way to chill a CO2 bottle, besides sticking it in a freezer or something like that, but then you gotta wait, is to fill it slightly and then dump it slightly. Fill it slightly, dump it slightly. That input-output of CO2 and CO2 gas will rapidly chill down a tank. It'll get to the point where you can't hold it anymore. It's got frost on the outside. That's the perfect temperature or perfect scenario to fill a tank. So if you want to fill it properly, it needs to be cold. If you want to fill it improperly and only get, a couple hundred shots out of it, depending on the tank size, if it's a small 4-ounce tank, you could get like 20 shots out of it if you don't do it right. Then fill it hot. But cold fill is really the only way to do it. If you're going to do your own setups or your own fills, you need one of these. Plus, you need a siphon CO2 tank. So this is a great system if you want to do it yourself. Please read the instructions because it can be dangerous. So make sure you know what you're doing. You're wearing safety goggles, all the safety equipment you need to. And make sure you just have the right setup to do it properly. So check it out. If you want to do your own fills, Empire CO2 Deluxe Station. It's available through the website. Order yours now through ansgear.com.